Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video with the adventures of the memory makers. Today we're in a customer's camper. It's about a 2022, I believe, Bushwhacker 10 HD, and we just got done installing the ARB Annex room on the camper for them, and we did our ARB Annex room mod where we attached the camper to, or attached the room to the camper, and then mold around the fender so you still have your table over the tire for storing things on. And this makes such a huge difference in the camper. But today, what we're here to talk to you about is it's viewer video request day. We had a watcher from Alberta, Canada, contact us and ask us if we could put together a video to show him how to break apart the light switches that control the outside lights. And what I mean by that is, if you're familiar with these campers, is they put one switch right there to control the lights over both doors. So in the middle of the night, if she wants to get out into her room to get something or do something, she can flip on this switch and turn the light on, and that will shine through this room enough to illuminate it to be able to see. You're probably not going to sit out there and read a book by it, but you can still see. But also at the same time, you're turning the light on the other side of the camper. So if you're trying not to disturb your neighbor at a campsite, well, you just flip that light on and illuminated their whole campsite for them. So what we're going to do today is install a double switch, and we'll put links to everything we use today in the description so that you can get what you need to do this. But it's a double rocker switch, and what it will do is now allow you to control either the right side or the left side by flipping the left or right hand switch. So this is a real simple project. We did this early on in our camper, so we couldn't show you how to do this on ours. So the owner was kind enough to allow us to use her camper to make this video. So I'm going to move the camera inside and let you follow along with me as I do this quick mod. Okay, inside the camper here with you, you can see the single light switch here that controls both the right and left hand switches. And what I've got is a matching color in brown, I think they call it brown, black, whatever it is, dual light switch. And you got the cover plate here, got your dual rockers here. So this one, when we get done, will control this light. And this one obviously will control the light over there. So working solo here today. Cindy decided to go back to work on me and leave me on my own. So we are going to do the best we can. I'll probably put the camera up here close so that you can see what I'm doing, and we're going to get started on this and get this taken care of. Okay, one of the first things we need to do here is to remove the cover plate from the existing switch, and it just snaps on there with a couple of pins. So I just use my pocket knife to pop that off. That will set this to the side. And a great use for this single switch after you take it out is to create a radio master switch in your radio, because if you have one of these, then you know how well it likes to turn itself on by itself. So you can take this single switch and put it on your radio, and Brian Smith, the DIY Outdoor Life, does a wonderful job of showing you how to do that, and we'll put a link to that in the video description as well. But that's a very good mod to do to keep from running your battery dead when that radio turns itself on. So here we've got it opened up. You can use a screwdriver. I cheat. I have a lot of power tools, so I use my screw gun to buzz those two screws out. And here's what we've got. So we've got one power lead in, which is the single wire. So that's what's bringing your 12-volt power to the switch. And then we have these two switches, or two wires right here, that go to the lights. So right now it's got power to it. I'm going to leave that power engaged real quick while I snip one of these two, and usually there's enough wire in here. These are all the common wires for the circuits that are connected together, which is what allows your power to return back to the battery and make this work. So generally there's enough wire here that I can pull down and get some to work with, but this is going to be kind of tight. So I'm going to stuff these commons back in the hole here, like this. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip one of these wires off right here. So the switch is off, so there's no power going to the light. So what I'm going to do just to identify which switch, which wire goes to which light, is I'm going to snip one of them, and then the one that is working obviously will tell me, which wire, which light that wire goes to. So I've got my crimping tool here that has a wire cutter on the end of it, which comes in handy when you're trying to get in here. This tool here will, do the same thing, but the wire cutter is back here, so it makes it really hard to get to the wire. So it kind of helps to have a couple of different types of tools to work with. So like I said, I'm just going to snip this guy right there for right now. So I know now that this wire goes to the one on the passenger side, and this light wire goes to the one on the driver's side. So that's just a quick, easy way for me to identify which one is which. So we're good now. We can disconnect these. And these are what they call spade connectors, and they just pop right off. Just wiggle them a little bit. So here we have our power wire. Here we have our the wire going to the driver's side light. So at this point, this wire is still hot. So we need to protect this to keep from shorting things out. So and now I'm going to go shut off the battery master switch to the camper so that we don't start creating sparks and welding inside the camper. So there we are. It suddenly got dark in the camper. So I'm going to use my headlight here to help illuminate things so that you can see a little better. But now the power is definitely off. We've identified which side the lights go to. And this makes this a lot easier at this point. So now what we need to do is simply take our switch, and we have to make this hole bigger. And there's several ways that we can do this. Like I said, I cheat and use a lot of power tools, but I'm going to show you a way you can do it without power tools. But the first thing you need to do is mark, how far over that needs to come. And marking on this black material, is kind of a trick. And I'm going to share a little trick with you here. If this material is some sort of composite material that they cover essentially with a vinyl covering, I wouldn't call it wallpaper, but it's some sort of vinyl stick-on material. And when you go cutting this, it's real easy to actually tear up that vinyl if you cut in it and the saw blade catches it. You can actually lift that off, and I've seen people do some damage around their switches. But if you take a razor knife like this and score a line where you want to cut, not only can you see it, but by scoring that vinyl material, now you reduce the hazard or the chance of actually lifting that vinyl off the wood. So it's a safer way of doing this. So what I do is I stick my switch up here and kind of get a mark over here. I mean, it doesn't need to be exact. But we're going to take and cut this down to about where that bottom goes. And you can use a switch or anything that's square, like this housing right here, to get an idea of where that's at. And just run your razor knife across and connect those lines like that. You just want to make sure that the opening is big enough to accept the double switch. So a little bit bigger, on the side isn't going to hurt anything. A 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, you'll have coverage. Don't go any bigger. I wouldn't do a 1/4 inch because you may not have coverage. But we're just going to scribe this out just like that. So now we've got a line so that we can see. And what we're going to do now is drill a hole. You can see how their corner is radius there. Well, they probably have a plunge router that they route that out with, or lay that down on a CNC table, and it takes seconds to make that hole. But that rounded corner is what we're going to do. And depending on what size blade you're going to use to cut this out with is how big you'll want to cut or drill the holes in your corner. So this is about a 1/4 inch blade. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch drill bit. And you want to drill so that the radius of your drill bit is in that corner that you just scribed. This wood is almost like a cardboard product when you get to working with it. You can see that. There we go. So now we've got turning points for our bit. Okay, now you want to be careful because you have wires back here in the back. So we'll make sure you can take your wires and make sure there's nothing back here where your blade is going to go. So I'm going to show you, if you don't have power tools, how you can cut this hole out. Now, one person told me they were at a campsite when they did this and they used a serrated steak knife and cut that out. That would probably work because, like I said, this is a pressed together type cardboard almost type product. So you probably could cut that out with a serrated steak knife. We're not going to. So what you can do is just pick up a small jigsaw blade. And if you don't have a jigsaw, it doesn't matter because all this blade needs to do is go in and out. And what you can do is take a pair of vice grips like this and clamp this onto this blade. Now, this is in worst case scenario and you don't have power tools, because if you have power tools, you aren't going to do this. But you can actually work your way across just like that. And if you wanted to take all the time to do it, you could definitely do it this way. I'm not going to. I've got power tools. So what I use instead, and this is my go-to tool for so many things, and if you don't have one of these, you need one. This is an oscillating end tool. This one's made by DeWalt. It's cordless. It's variable speed. You can get electric models. Almost every tool manufacturer makes one. But this thing is just, I don't know how I could ever live without it today after having it. So what we're going to do is just buzz this across. It's going to be really loud. We'll fast forward through this so you don't have to endure the pain. Make sure your wires aren't back here. There we go. So we're through that one. We're going to come down here and start down here in this hole. Through that one. There we go. So now we've got our hole opened up. I'm going to grab the shop vac real quick and suck this up, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, back with you here after cleaning up all my dust and debris that I made. So now the next step is we've got our power lead right here. And what we need to do in order to make this work is we now have two switches. So we have two light wires going to one to each light. So that's not an issue. But now we need to get a power wire to go from one terminal here to the other terminal here. So basically what we're going to do is piggyback off of this one lead and bring another wire over to this terminal so that we can power both switches with the same power source. So what we're going to do is, normally, like I said, there's enough in here that I can pull this out and clip a little piece off and have enough to work with. In this case, I don't have that much to work with. So I went and dug through my scrap box and I found another piece of 12 gauge wire, same wire that they use on these lights. So I'm going to use this to make our little jumper wire. So what we're going to do here is just strip off about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, because we're actually going to twist these together so that we can put them in the spade connector together. And there's all sorts of different wire strippers out there. So I just saw these laying on the bench, so I grabbed them. Okay, so we get this one stripped off. So this is going to be our jumper wire. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a new spade connector on this with this wire with the main power lead, and then this will put another spade connector on and connect to our other switch so we can power both lights off of the same source. So now we need to snip this guy off like that. So we got this wire right here, and you can pull a little bit and get a little bit down to work with. So here we're going to, there we go. And just take your time and work through this. And one of the neat things about these campers is there are a lot of people buying these today that don't have, the experience of doing this or working on their own things. And people are taking the time and they're motivated and they want to make changes to their campers. So they're learning, how to do things that they didn't know how to do before. So, I am thrilled that our videos are helping people get out there and, expand their horizons and learn new things. That's what it's all about to me. So, that's a really neat thing for the camper. So I've got these twisted together now. So this is going to be our combo power wire. And you just want to make sure you use the same gauge of wire for your jumper as what you have. That way, if you don't want to use a smaller gauge and make it become the fuse. So we're going to nip this off here a little bit now. We got them twisted together, just like that. And I'm going to use a package of these number 10 and 12 spade connectors and slip these on that wire and then crimp it together. So you can see it slips on just like that. Now you can use a set of crimpers like this, the end piece right there. I prefer to use an actual wire crimper here, and you can see, if I can get it in the camera, it'll say non-insulated or non right there. For that notch is for non-insulated terminals, and then INS is for insulated terminals, which is right there. And I actually have a pair of these at the house that I took and ground off the end of it just so I have the insulated crimper. I really like them, especially for getting in tight spots. But this is what I have with me today, so we're going to use these. And what I do is I put that in there just like that and hold it, but don't crimp it. And then that allows me to pull my wire out enough to slide this on here now, and then get a good crimp on there. You don't have to smash it like a hammer and an anvil, but you want to get a nice crimp. That way it doesn't pull off. So there, that's one of our power leads. And now we're going to just twist these wires here. Try and nip off just a little bit. Don't need all that. There we go. And now we're going to install another spade connector onto that. This crazy weather here, it's been really warm. And then suddenly the temperature decided to drop. It's about 20 degrees outside and sleeting. And it's cold here in the shop. I had the heater running, but you wouldn't be able to hear me if I was still running it. So my fingers are getting numb. So there we go. So this is our pigtail or piggyback wire lead for our two power terminals, and that's what's going to power our lights. Okay, so now we know that this one, because of what we did earlier to identify which one was which, we know that this wire goes to the passenger side light. So what I'm going to do is the same thing. We're just going to strip off about a 1/2 inch. If we can get just enough out to work with. There we go. Like I said, just take your time. It's kind of tight because there's just not a lot of wire sticking out here to work with. And you don't want to mess up and chop it off. There we go. So get that sucker out of there. It's amazing sometimes how tight that wire will hang onto that jacket. And you could label these if you're worried about getting them confused. I've done enough of these now, I could probably do this in my sleep. So that goes on there. We're going to slip this on here like that. Bring it through there to where you can just see the wire sticking out. You don't want to run it through there a 1/4 of an inch. Get a good crimp there. Give a good tug, make sure that you're good. So this one now is our right-hand light lead. So I'm going to stick it over here on the right side just to keep it out of my way and indexed. And now this one goes to the one on the driver's side. I'm going to snip off the old spade terminal. There we go. Now same deal. We're going to trim off about a 1/2 inch of jacket here. I recommend doing this on a warmer day because with numb fingers, this is just not easy. But if Tim in Alberta's doing this, he's probably used to the cold. So there we go. Now get our last spade connector. And a tip on buying these spade connectors. I have no idea where I got these at or how much they were, but I'm going to put a link to a kit in Amazon that's going to have spade connectors, both the female part and the male part, some ring terminals, some butt connectors. And the reason I'm going to link to that kit is real simple. So if you go to the part store and buy that little kit right there, or that little box that I think had 10 or 12 in it, you're going to pay in our area probably about $6 to $8 for a little package with 10 or 12 connectors in. I think it's $8.99 on Amazon. You can get, gosh, I forget how many it was, but there's a crazy number of connectors, like over 100 connectors maybe, in a nice kit. And believe me, you'll use them at some point if you're going to continue to own a camper and do this kind of stuff. So for $8 you can get 100 pieces, or $7 you can get 10 pieces. Simple math. I think the getting the 100 for $8 is a better deal for me. Okay, so that's it. So now we got our switch here, and the switch, it doesn't matter which way is hot. We can flip it around once we get it dialed in here. So we're going to connect, because this is tied up here on the power lead. I'm going to put the powers on the top terminals and then the lights on the bottom, which is actually the way they had them as well when they took the switch out, or when I took the switch out. So to do this, let me see if I can do it and show you. They just push on. So this is the male part of a spade connector. This is the female part. So if I can get the light just right, you just push that on there just like that. Now we're going to take our jumper wire that we made. So there's our wire that loops over. So it just comes over to here, and that loops to there. So now we're going to make sure that this one goes over to here. And if you get this wrong, you just unhook them and hook it back. So it's not a big deal there if you hook it up and they're backwards. So here, there we go. And you can bend them to get a little room. If it looks like they're getting kind of close to touching, that you can just pry them apart a little bit like that. And we should have good space. So let's raise this one up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to step out, turn the battery master back on to power up the power to the lights, and we'll verify that we do have the passenger side switch on the passenger side light, and vice versa. Okay. So now, get the light on. So I had to flip it over because in this position right now, the light is on. So in order to get this to work, you'll want to flip your switches over. So now that is off and that is off. So let's verify. Okay, so it's technically, because we rotated it over now to get the switch to work properly and index, the way you want it, and now we need to reverse our light wires, which is no big deal. Like I said, we'll just unplug this one. We'll unplug this one. We'll plug this one in over here. We'll plug this one in over here. I'm not sure if you guys can see this or not because my arm's probably in the way, but there we go. So now we've got the passenger side light on the passenger side switch. We got the driver side light on the driver side switch, and that's all there is to it. So what you do now is just simply push this back in, and the screws that you used before, we're going to stick that back in here, just like this. Run that in. Now square your switch up, because I can't, that's one of the things that drives me nuts is when a switch isn't square. So we'll put our screw back in here. There we go. So it's good and tight. There are 4 screw holes right there, and if you want to put 4 screws in it, you can. Believe me, this will be here till the end of time with 2 screws. So there's no need to get carried away here. Now all you have to do is take your cover plate just like this, and there are 4 pins here on the switch base itself. They line up with these 4 holes on your cover plate. All you're going to do is snap that on, and just like that, you now have independent control of your light switches on your camper. So there you have it, a quick, simple 10-minute project that will take your single light switch and turn it into 2 light switches so that you have independent control of the outside lights on your camper. It just makes for being a better neighbor at the campground, and plus gives you more control over where you get your light at. I hope that you found this useful. Tim, we look forward to seeing you guys come down to Indiana this summer, and we'll do some work on your camper for you when you get here. But until then, we appreciate the suggestions by the viewers for the videos. And until the next video, happy camping.